Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. If you want to take your shooting experience to the next level, then check out Cole-TAC gear for 100% made in America products. Cole-TAC manufactures specialty gear designed for long-range shooting, hunting, and other tactical applications. From their support bags, suppressor covers, shooting mats, and a whole lot more, Cole-TAC is creating tough, durable, and innovative gear for both civilian and professional markets. Go to Cole-TAC.com to see all that they have to offer. That's COLE-TAC.com. If you are looking to get a new rifle or build your own, look no further than Kelbley's. Kelbley's actions and rifles have a higher level of accuracy and hold 92 world records set on either one of their rifles or rifle actions. Whether you're looking for an ultralight mountain rifle or wanting to compete in precision rifle shooting, Kelbley's has you covered. Go to kelbley.com to find out more or give them a call as their customer service is the best. That's KELBLY.com. Kelbley's. If you're looking to take your hunting to another level, there's no better way to do it than by subscribing to onX Hunt. If you want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, onX is the #1 GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust onX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. If you want to know more about onX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt or download their app today for a free trial. If you are wanting to become more accurate and deadly with your shooting, one of the best things you can do is upgrade your trigger with a Timney. Timney triggers are 100% made in America and have been since their founding, providing a crisp, reliable, and repeatable trigger break every time. I'll be shooting Timney triggers in my guns this year, and I hope you'll join me in shooting the world's finest trigger. Go to timneytriggers.com to get yours today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I am joined by a really cool person that I met a few years ago, and I actually got a chance to podcast with him a couple years ago, and it was a wonderful time talking all about his hunt in New Mexico, chasing orcs, and just doing a lot of cool things. Well, this is the owner of Cole-TAC Manufacturing out of South Dakota. We got Dustin Coleman on, former military, a veteran, a guy who is living that American ingenuity lifestyle, a pilot, a man of many talents. But we're having him on today. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things, from making gear, shooting, hunting, and politics, because tariffs and American manufacturing, that goes hand in hand. So without further ado, man of the hour, Dustin, how you doing, brother?
Outstanding. And I need to correct you. I'm the co-owner. My wife is actually, it's my wife and I. So, but she's not much of a fan of being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
She hates it. So I always have to pull podcast duties. That'd be a fun one though, is like tie her down and force her to be in front of a podcast.
Ooh. We'll have to lock her down at a expo next year or something like that.
It would have been cool to have a podcast at the Western Hunt Expo this year with you, but
dude, right? Bunch of sick kids and sick wife.
I know how it goes.
Hey, I just want to give a shout out real quick because in the game of hunting, and you order gear, you pick out gear, you always get stickers with everything, it seems, nowadays.
Yep.
And so I just want to give a shout out to Cole-TAC and their "Don't Thread on Me" sticker. that one's going to be going on the tripod here, and really excited about that. But one question I have is, what is your story and background on this sticker right here?
Well, so both of those stickers were drawn by our daughter. That one with the rabbit was my other daughter's rabbit at the time, Napoleon Bonaparte. And yeah, exactly. That's Napoleon. Sadly, Napoleon, when we moved from New Hampshire to here, he was the only casualty in the move. We moved a whole bunch of animals. We moved 4 horses, over 30 some birds, and poor Napoleon, he made it like 2 days out here, and we just went out there one day and he was dead. Poor guy.
Oh, brutal.
I know. So that was pretty heartbreaking for her, but yeah, so it's our daughter. We give her projects to like, hey, let's make a new sticker, and she draws it up, and she's pretty darn good at it.
Dude, I like that. You know, that hits a little differently now that there's a story behind it. I
Yeah.
like that. I actually, so my original logo back when I was Washington Backcountry and I lived in the Northwest, I drew on a napkin with crayons. Just grabbed my
Yes.
kids' crayons. Was like, hey, let's, you know.
Well,
So
that's our logo. Our logo started with my wife and I. We were just sitting at the kitchen table, just kind of sketching, and we still have the piece of paper that we sketched the original logo in, just with pencil and paper. And then me being an engineer, the only thing that I knew how to design anything in was SolidWorks. So I went to SolidWorks and sketched it up in SolidWorks to make it actually look professional.
yeah.
And that's how that came about.
Dude, that's awesome. You got any I mean, some companies take sticker games serious and
Oh
they're
yeah.
all about it. You got any more in the works?
Oh yeah, we've got a whole bunch. I don't know. Have you seen the cat wearing the NVGs?
Yes. I think I
Yes.
actually
So,
put that on something. Or
right. So yeah, that cat's actually our shop cat that we have running around here at the shop. She actually has her own Instagram account if people want to watch. She's pretty mischievous. The Empress Pixie is her name, is her social media or her Instagram account. But we're kind of starting to, the next ones that are coming out are playing on to just like dumb animals running around with NVGs because people seem to like it.
right. Right. I actually since we're doing this live, I'm gonna grab a sticker of a buddy of mine um, out of the state of Washington. Shout out to the Trash Man. So my buddy Weston Alexander, all of you, Bolt Action Hero on Instagram, go give him a follow.
Okay.
But I always, I called him Trash Man. I took him on his very first backcountry hunt, and he killed a black bear, and like dreams came true of like, dude, I've always wanted to do this. Got after it. Best friend solidified on a hunt, and
Yep.
so turns out he works at a dump. He's not. I don't just call him the trash man because he's the trashiest human I know, but he also works at a dump, and so he came up with the trash man
Yes.
stickers.
With ATF in there.
Yes, catch
Love
him.
it.
Yeah. So a little shout
You
out to
got to
him.
make fun of the three-letter agencies. Actually, funny enough. So I don't know if people can see this.
Yeah, IRS
Uh,
sucks.
one of my employees, he cuts out stickers. He's done a couple now that are just freaking hilarious. So
I love that.
yeah,
I love that.
make fun of them.
I'm gonna check the comments here because playing in the dark is the best. Yes, talking about the
Yes.
nods, absolutely.
Have you gotten into that game yet?
Dude, I've gotten into the thermal game, but I haven't gotten into the nods. I really,
Yeah,
really want to.
yeah. It changes your world as far as like you feel like a superhuman where I can walk around
Yeah.
and sure your field of view is decreased, but like it looks as good. It's clear enough that you can walk around. Nobody knows you're there. No animals know you're there, and it's just you feel like you have superhuman powers. It's awesome.
When did you get your first set?
2019, I bet. I bought the first and only set that I still have that I run around with. It might have been 2020 actually, but yeah, PVS 31s. I kind of went, especially at that time, all in.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, white phosphorus is freaking phenomenal.
Dude, if they could make all this stuff a little bit more attainable for people, like
It, it's
suppressors,
come down a
nods,
long
all
ways.
that. Yeah.
And especially what I find crazy is the thermal stuff, how quick that has just, it's way more attainable for people. And honestly, the stuff that you can do with thermals now is just crazy.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we just had my buddy from North Dakota come down and go on a Texas safari with us because that's, by the way, when you come down and you're hunting with us, even though you're coming down on a hog hunt, I call it a Texas safari because it's like year round. You can shoot bobcats, raccoons, coyotes, foxes,
Yeah.
hogs, possum. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
It's open season.
yeah,
Well, I sat there. So I have a good buddy down at Texas Gun Shop in San Angelo, Texas. I went down there for one of his events, And afterwards we went out to a buddy's, his place ranch. They have a bunch of hogs out there, and we went hog hunting at night with nods. And it was kind of one of the spookier, experiences that I've had hunting, where we're walking down this river bottom, and all of a sudden there's this sow with a whole line of piglets. And we're like, all right, let's unload. Let's go now. And we just start dumping. And I don't think we hit the sow, but we started shooting piglets. And so you hear the piglets. It's kind of gruesome, but the piglets are screaming. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you hear the sow running around off in the scrub brush around the side of us, like grunting, snorting. And I'm like, you have this short field of view.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out where she's at. Like, is she going to hop out of a bush coming after us? We were trying to keep our head on swivel, because it was wild. And I thought for sure she was coming out after us.
Yeah. We had on our hunt a couple weeks ago, came up on a sounder of pigs, and there's 3 of us, and as soon as those first shots go off, even though you're suppressed, those pigs, because they don't know where that sound's coming from, they just scatter. And so we drop a couple, and then one just comes running right at us. And the problem is there were so many, and they're scattering in different directions, that you're following one, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh geez. And
right. Or you're following one, and your buddy pulls the trigger as you're about to pull the trigger, and you see it tumbling, and it's like, crap, that was mine.
Oh my gosh. Hey, for all the people who do not have not experienced hog hunting, obviously they are an animal that, in the state of Texas, you don't even need a hunting license to hunt hogs on private land. You're allowed. They're viewed as a pest. They absolutely destroy crops and fields and all that. But they also reproduce every 90 days. And so,
and huge numbers too.
Huge numbers. Yeah. So, you shoot a sow, she could have produced like 60 little baby piglets
that year. 60 piglets that year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. We call the little ones footballs, but I know you're talking about that squealing. Like,
yeah. Bullet sponges.
Yeah. Dude, they soak up the bullets, though. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Went through a ton. So, brother, let's talk a little bit about your history going from military. You're an engineer by trade. Were you an engineer before you got into the military, or what was your journey on that?
Right, as well. So I don't usually share this, but I tried college the first time around right out of high school. High school was fairly easy for me, and I didn't have to study. I didn't have to work at it. I kind of have, I've got a good memory when it comes to stuff like that. So I got through high school like a breeze. Went to college the first time around. Again, not proud of this, but I'm going to share it anyway. I finished my first year with a 0.6 GPA.
Hell yeah, you had a great time.
I don't remember much of it. But I was a complete disaster. Yeah. I was not ready for the world.
Yeah.
So, said the heck with it. I need to get out of here. I need to change my life a little bit. Joined the Air Force, did 4 years. Right before I left, I actually met my wife. While I was in, had 2 kids. And then after I got out, I'm originally from Wisconsin, went back to Wisconsin and sat down and did 4 years of college, and got my engineering degree. And actually I did 4 years. I got my full bachelor, in 4 years at a real sit down school, working 12-hour nights at a pudding factory.
Really?
Making snack pack pudding cups. You know the snack pack pudding cups?
Yes.
Yeah. I worked 12-hour nights making snack pack pudding cups. And it was a cool schedule. I did 7 on, 7 off. So I did 7 12-hour days in a row, and then had 7 days off. So it was like this push of 7 days of basically, an hour nap in the morning after I get back from work, go to class all day, an hour or 2 in the evening, and then go make pudding all night. And then crash for 7 days and still go to school, but had to catch up from the stuff that went behind. Got that done in 4 years, and then graduated with over a 3.8 GPA the second time around, because I was actually motivated.
Yeah.
and and had two more kids during that time. So
Mm.
we were busy people during that time. And yeah, ended up with by the time it was all said and done, we had 4 kids under the age of 5 in our house. So my wife spent all of 5 years basically pregnant. Poor lady, but she's a saint. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and then got my first job right out of college with. Have you ever heard of Flambeau Plastics?
Yeah, they make a lot of tackle
Yeah.
boxes and stuff like that, fishing
Yep.
gear.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So they're in Wisconsin there. So got my first job with them and mainly doing industrial stuff. So I got to deal with one rifle case while I was there, but it was mainly a lot of automotive parts because they make a lot of parts for everybody else.
Yeah.
So did that. And then it was actually one night, it was Halloween night. I still remember this because we were getting the kids ready to go trick or treating. And I was on I was on Ruger's website looking at a gun that I wanted to buy from them. And I noticed that they had a job posting for an engineer. And I was like, oh, I don't have, looking at all their experience requirements. I'm like, oh, I don't have enough experience. And I was like, you need to apply anyway, just because, you'd be stupid not to at least try.
Yeah.
Because the worst they'll say is no. And she's like, you spend all your time and money outside of work on guns. You should get paid for it. Like,
Yeah.
this is obnoxious. So I'm like, all right, not thinking that much would happen. And sure enough, I got a job with them and moved all the way from Wisconsin out to New Hampshire. So that's how, our company. Yeah. So I'm a
Wow.
gun nut. I love, I grew up hunting and, the first deer, and it's deer hunting in Wisconsin. So my first year I got to use my dad's Marlin lever action 30-30.
Yeah.
And then the next year he upgraded me to a Ruger 270. And I was like, oh my goodness, I hit the lottery. This is the best rifle ever. And so I always had this like deep admiration for Ruger. And truthfully, it was funny, my wife and I still talk about this. My first semester when I went back to college,
Hmm.
she asked me, when you're all done with this, if you had to pick one place in the world to work, where would it be? And, and I did without hesitation said Ruger. And
Wow.
it's like, it was my dream job. And absolutely, I still love the company. They do amazing things. Had a great time there, and then in the process started just kind of accidentally started Cole-TAC, and it was intended just to be a spare bedroom business for her, and we made a suppressor. She made a suppressor cover for me, and then my buddies there saw it, and they asked her to make them a couple, and so we're like, well, we'll just put up a small website. You can make them out of the spare bedroom because she was a good sewer, and we had a goal. She's originally from Latvia. Have you met my wife yet? At any
Yes.
of the?
Wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful person.
yeah, yeah. So originally from Latvia. So she's like, I want to save up enough money so we can take a trip to Latvia, and that was our initial goal. Go back and see her family, and it just started going from there, and we were grinding in it. And it's kind of like a little bit when I went to college the second time around. Sometimes if I have a little bit of obsessive compulsive, like when I get focused and fixated on something, like
Yes.
the rest of the world drowns out. So it was just this grinding. In the beginning, it was here and there, and it just started picking up. And by the end, right before I left Ruger, the last like 6 months while I was still doing Cole-TAC and Ruger, I was up, or I'd go to Ruger in the morning, work all the way through the afternoon, run the kids around to whatever activities they had. They were still fairly young, so we could put them to bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock,
Uh-huh.
and then her and I were just grinding from then till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and just did that for like the last 6 months, and it got to the point where he said, hey, something's got to give.
Yeah.
Either I got to quit doing both, and we were homeschooling at the time, so she was teaching the kids all day. So we've either got to stop doing Cole-TAC, or I got to quit at Ruger, and it was by the time I was there, kind of the deciding factor is why I made the jump, and it was terrifying. I will say I was absolutely terrified because it was a great job, my dream job, great benefits, awesome company. But I had enough experience and connections at the time that I said, you know what, if this Cole-TAC thing doesn't work out, I can get a job again fairly quick somewhere else if
Right.
Ruger won't take me back.
Right.
So I was like, we got to at least try. And we talked about it today. Um, when I first left, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have all this spare time and we're going to be able to do all this stuff. And no, it was because then I could focus all my time on Cole-TAC, and it went busters, and it's been just kind of growing ever since. And it was kind of cool, especially those first several years. Or the first after I left Ruger, those first 2 years after I left Ruger, we bought one of those Nissan commercial big boxy vans. If the
Yep.
NV vans,
Yep.
huge van. And it's a 12 passenger van. So we took out 6 of the seats. So that way we put the 4 kids in, we had 2 dogs, and threw the kids, threw the dogs in, and then everything for the booth and we traveled all over the place to different events because the kids were homeschooling and I was on my own schedule, and we just, beat the ground all over the place going to different events. We kind of reminisce, like that was some of the most memorable trips that we've ever had, where we're just all piling this van driving from New Hampshire we did a lot of trips to, along that eastern seaboard, North Carolina, Florida, Georgia. Somehow one of the trips we got we had to evacuate from a hurricane and end up in New Orleans, Mississippi, all those. So it was a ton of fun. And then it's just kind of been growing ever since.
Dude, that's the American dream. You full on have talk about like the gambit of experiences.
Right. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, it blows me away. I mean, you went from a Midwest boy to making pudding cups to getting your dream job at your dream company, to creating a company that has now taken off and provided for your family, and as not only your family, but it's benefiting the hunting and shooting community, and like
Right.
you're creating a legacy and really impacting this world. It's pretty awesome.
Well, and and I will say the big thing too, that is the thing that I don't know, it necessarily keeps me up at night, but the thing that, like, it's not just us anymore. We've got 34 employees now at this point. So like it's us and a whole bunch of other families that are kind of depending on this thing, kicking butt and rocking. And I am really proud of that and our team that we built. I mean, because in the beginning it was just her and I, and now every person that we're adding on, it's just it's a huge sense of accomplishment that we can do this kind of stuff with the team, and it's everything from when you're small still in the spare bedroom. My wife was head of production. She was the main sewing lady. I was, and just sewing like a banshee. But I was marketing and accounting and HR and all those, engineering, and now we've got team members in those spots, and it's cool to see that grow, and then to see like the stuff that they're accomplishing now is way better than what I can do or could do before. Our marketing team is so strong. And I'm super proud to see what they can do that I could never do before. And it's just kind of cool to see that take off. Our engineer, we've got 2 engineers. My one, the one, well, they're both of them, they're geniuses, but like they run circles around me. And here I am, like, I'm not a bad engineer, but like what they're doing, I'm like, every day I'm like, how the heck are you guys doing this stuff? And it's just, it's kind of cool to see it kind of start breathing its own life, even without me having to do the stuff. So
yeah, dude, that's awesome.
And on the production side, my goodness, the volume that we're starting to produce now, and the systems that we've built. That's the big thing too, is we've really built a lot of systems that are just, it helps allow us to be able to make this gear, to develop the gear, manufacture the gear, market it, ship it, sell it, all of it.
I remember you talking about you're like really big on efficiency.
I'm a data geek and an efficiency nut. And that was, I will say, the big thing. I, no lie, stole a lot of our efficiency philosophies from Ruger. And I tell the guys this all the time too, as far as like the stuff that I learned there, as far as like high volume manufacturing. I mean, the number of firearms that one building produces in a day would blow most people's minds. I mean, it's baffling how, and I mean, they're everything down to like how people pick up a spring to put it in a trigger assembly. Like they study every little detail of that process and pick out, what's the best way to do this and what's the best way to do this. What most people would think, oh, I got to pick up a spring and put it, on this pin. Most people try to think about, they don't think about the importance of the exact process of how you do that. And but when you start dealing with high volumes, every second second matters. And seeing these, trying to take those principles, which is similar but different, and start applying them to sewing manufacturing. I geek out about that. And I will say, so for me personally, I don't like production. When you sit there and say, all right, we need to make 10,000 of these widgets, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of a little bit like, I don't like it. But how I frame it to get myself motivated to do it is, okay, we have to make these 10,000 widgets. What's the best way we can do this? And sit there and tweak that process. And so it's not just the same thing over and over again. We're constantly trying to change and evolve and adapt and make it better. And that's how I stay interested with it. And that's how and that helps for us just to be able to grow and keep expanding.
I saw on X, I'm a huge X fan, Twitter formerly.
We're trying to get into it more.
Dude, this is a whole nother podcast here regarding censorship and free speech and all that stuff, but it is a phenomenal platform. And I just saw randomly the other day a video of a bunch of, I don't even know what type of adapters they were, like threaded on the inside and threaded on the outside, but it had like a flat hat where you could use a wrench on it. And they'd pop out on this conveyor belt, and some would be upside down and some would be right side up. And there's a thin little wire, and the conveyor belt runs. And if the flat part is on the top, it catches the wire and it flips it over. And if it was normal, it passed right under. And I was like, that's the exact type of stuff you're talking about. Yeah. Because
and I love some of those simple things. And that's the big thing that I think for us, especially, and we try to find simple solutions to just make things easier, because we've got a decent set of tools in our arsenal here now, as far as engineering. We do a lot with laser cut acrylic. Lately, over the last year, we've really grown our 3D printing capabilities, where we'll just sit there and like think of a part and like, all right, let's print it and see what happens. And so we use our 3D printers a ton to make different tools around the shop to make it just that much better. And sometimes the simplest little things have huge impacts when you're dealing with very repetitive things. And it makes it easier for our sewing team. And, they're appreciating, because otherwise they're struggling with some of these odd, tasks where we're just wasting time. And like filling support bags. Oh my goodness. When we first started filling our cuddle bags, we bought them from Walmart. Little bean bag fill, like refilling bags. And how it first started was we'd take one of those bags, just cut off the corner, and we taped it on the end of a chunk of muffler pipe.
Yeah.
And you put it over your shoulder and you shake it in, and it was a mess and the pain in the butt and took forever. And we just iterated on that, and now we've got our own hopper system we built in house that sits there and forces them in with air, and it blows them in and blows up the bags. That way they fill up, and there's foot pedals to operate the stuff. And yeah, it's kind of neat to see how and to look back at like how we used to have to do it to now, and we're going to try to keep growing on that. And we've got just today I saw our engineer, he came out with a new filling valve that was all 3D printed with some nice, really good bearings because they were jamming up, and it's just trying to improve on the process like that is where I really kind of geek out.
Yeah, I love that. Hot Rod 65 TK says I have a 3D printer, but I'm still trying to figure it out. Yeah,
Yeah, well, but I will say, and there's a huge range of 3D printers. The real basic ones are tough to try to do some nice stuff, but when you start getting into the higher end ones, it's so even just looking at that, our first 3D printers, all the stuff that we had to do to try to get a good part to come out of them, where now it adjusts itself, it levels itself. It's getting close to like your home printer where, okay, I need this, 3-page report printed out, hit print.
yeah.
It's getting closer to that, but it's still.
You and I met at the Huxworks Safety Company booth at SHOT Show this year, and they're moving all suppressor manufacturing to everything 3D printed, and I'm like, that's mind blowing.
Right. Well, yeah, metal 3D printing now. We can't justify one of those yet, but I really want one just because like it looks like so much fun. And that's what's needed too, is seeing what a lot of the companies now are starting to push. At least most of the major companies have at least, if they don't have a full 3D printed suppressor, they've got a hybrid version where it's got a mix of some 3D printed parts and some conventionally machined parts.
Yeah.
And and both processes have their pros and cons. But as that technology expands and grows, it's gonna just keep growing and become more affordable. And the stuff that you can do on them is stuff that you can't conventionally machine.
Well, you do a lot in soft goods. Send It 110 says, I'd give my left arm, he apparently is right-handed, I'd give my left arm for a good 3D printed throw lever for his rifle scopes. He can't stand MK machining.
Oh, really? MK machining, yeah, I like those guys. They do some really, like, a lot of their stuff is like they've really figured out the 3D printing game. Do you know them?
I don't have any other products, no.
Yeah, and they're right. Well, they're I would say they're more in the precision shooting world than the hunting world. But like some of their 3D printed stuff that they're doing, it's getting hard to tell that it's even 3D printed because they're just doing it that well.
Yeah.
I remember 5-10 years ago, you could really tell a 3D printed part with all the different layers that were stacked up, and now it's getting just crazy how good it's become, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears here for a second. I want to go back to you talking about loving Ruger and working there. Just real quick, favorite caliber, favorite guns. Like, I know it's hard to narrow it down, so give me like 3 if you need to. But
okay, favorite caliber, best caliber of all time, bar none, 45-70. It
yes.
Just big giant pumpkin launcher.
Yes.
And with that, I've got a love for the 458 bullet. And I think where that comes from mainly is, deer hunting in Wisconsin is, we're sitting in tree stands and a long shot is 100 yards. You hear the deer long before you see them.
Yeah.
So like that 45-70 caliber round absolutely dispatches deer, whitetail, in no time. And just watching them just like crumple, and it doesn't matter, where you hit them. They're just crumpled and down. So that's I really like the 4570, and it's, gosh, what now, over 150 years. It's got to be 150 years old.
Yep.
And still being used.
Yep. I have a Marlin 1895 Trapper that I haven't taken it hunting yet. Like, that's one of the things where it's on my bucket list. But man, I can't wait. I love shooting
my bucket list, and I really want to try to do it this year, is I want to shoot a big game animal with a revolver. I really want to, like, that I think that'd be a fun next challenge. I've shot stuff with archery, muzzleloader. I haven't done crossbow. I don't know why that hasn't really hit my boat yet.
Yeah.
Rifle obviously, but I've never shot anything with a pistol. And so I think that's kind of I really got to find a way to do that. So,
Texas is your state for that then.
Right.
Come on down.
Yeah. But no, so, well, and I'll be honest. Okay. So at Ruger, I came in, and helped a lot with the Ruger American line. And I will say, when I first got there and they said, all right, you're going to be working on the American line, I was thoroughly disappointed because, it's this cheap, in my mind at the time, it's this cheap piece of junk rifle. And I was basing it off just because it was cheap. And I was like, there's no way, this is just budget rifle nonsense.
Yeah.
As I started working on more of the changes and derivatives and newer stuff with that, I really fell in love with that rifle. Because it serves a purpose. It's a tool, where, I really like, before going in there, I really like, traditional wood stock. I like all these other things, but, you're so careful with it. And when you're out hunting, you have to worry about, like, I don't want to hurt this, I don't know, not necessarily heirloom, but it's an expensive investment, where, the Ruger American, it's a tool. You throw it in the back of the truck, it bounces around, you pull it out, it shoots. Most of them are shooting phenomenal. And especially for the money, they're hard to beat.
Yeah.
And I had a ton of fun, I guess, falling in love with that rifle. And then seeing now that they just came out with the Gen 2 stuff.
Yep.
It's the stuff that I always wanted to try to do. And I had some, we were working towards that stuff towards the tail end of my time there.
Yeah.
But looking at what they're doing with that rifle now for the money, it's a solid platform.
Yeah. Other than the stock and the trigger, and you can adjust that trigger down, but
I feel like I'm far enough away from them now.
I got out of the camera. I want to hear your story, but that was what my boy shot his very first deer with, was Ruger American and 300 Blackout.
Yep. You want to talk about nightmares of trying to figure that out? I was part of the team to get that the American in 300 Blackout. 300 Blackout should have. This is unpopular opinion. In my opinion, at that time, should have never been approved by Sammy. We fought so long because it has such a small shoulder. Like that shoulder, there's not much there.
Right.
Yeah, it's like just a little tiny blip on the radar. And we were sitting there, and it'd misfire, or it wouldn't go off. You'd look at it and you'd see this tiny little indent on the primer. So you think, light primer strike. And everybody was blaming the rifle for the problem. But when you start looking at it, if we looked up on the shoulder, you'd see when you'd get those, the primer was getting hit, but the shoulder was so small and soft that it was actually stuffing the round into the chamber. And that's what was doing it. And so Hornady and their engineers and myself, we worked a ton on trying to figure out that, that problem. Because so with an AR, you have the hammer that swings forward, and that hammer's just cooking. And so it gets all that energy from the velocity to set off the primer, where with a bolt action, it's just this big, massive bolt that's dropping forward. So it's getting all the energy. They have roughly the same energy, but because it's getting it from the mass side, instead of, with an AR, the brass doesn't have enough time to deform before the primer hits the point where it goes off. Where with a bolt action, it was just pushing it forward and stuffing it into the chamber. And that caused a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out what the heck was going on there. But it's awesome, especially in a bolt gun with a suppressor. I love 300 blackout out of a bolt gun because it's just so dang quiet.
So quiet. So here's a little background, funny story, because I've been in the game 10 years. My oldest boy is 10 years old, and he shot that buck with that gun, and I specifically remember being like, I'm getting into hunting. My first hunting rifle was an AR-10 308 platform. And I was like, well, I need a bolt gun that my kids can shoot at their first hunting gun. And that's what I ended up buying. And I took it I'd take a hike with it. And my kid would be in a day pack, just hiking, sleeping. And I'd shoot that gun with him in the back, and he wouldn't even wake up. And I was like,
right.
Perfect. Exactly what I needed.
Well, and that was a funny story I like to talk about that is when I bought my first suppressor, my wife was like, she was shaking her head like, why are you spending money on this? And then you have the tax stamp on top of this. We were fresh out of, still trying to kind of pay off student debt. She's like, we don't need to be wasting money on this. And then it wasn't probably 6 months after that. I was actually at home doing some testing on a rifle, from Ruger there, and it wasn't suppressed. And she comes out, she's like, isn't there anything you can do to make this thing quieter? Like, this is just obnoxious. Make it quieter. I'm like, yes, I win. Yes, I can get more suppressors. This is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, which then goes into when I first came across your gear, and I was like, man, a suppressor caddy, who has 10 suppressors or
5,
or
8.
however many it holds. And now, shoot, I think all my fingers are covered up with suppressors right now, and I know I already got 2 more on the way, and it's like it just keeps going.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's funny. I think most people's suppressors journey, if I had to, especially if you start getting into it and you go further beyond, everyone's first 2 suppressors, I feel like, are a rimfire. Everybody gets a little 22, and then they get a 30 cal with some quick detach mount on it.
Yep.
Because they're like, I'm going to switch it from rifle to rifle to rifle. And as you start going, you realize you don't want to switch the suppressor around. And, you start going down the line, and then, kind of where I'm at. And I think a lot of people, once they get past like number 3 or 4, they're like, I don't want quick detach anymore because I'm going to put it on a rifle, and it's part of that setup.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point now, I just want everything direct thread because when it goes on, it's just going to stay on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a funny progression. My first can was a 30 cal, and I shot it, and I never shot a suppressed gun before, never experienced, no one around me shot a suppressed gun. I was like, suppressor, yeah, why not? Like, let's go. Got it, shot it, was like, this is cool. Not as quiet as I expected. Then I went and got my 22 can, and that was when I started giggling like a little school kid, just like, I can't believe this. Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh, check this out. You can shoot this in the backyard in a city neighborhood, and no one even knows. It sounds lighter than a firecracker.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, and along those same lines that I've done a little bit more and more, and I'm really enjoying it. It's something that I would have never thought is air rifles. Have you got into big boy air rifles yet?
I've thought about it, but I haven't.
Dude,
I haven't
it's
gone
addicting.
down.
Be careful. Be careful, because it's that same thing. It's like, oh my goodness, and now it's not your Daisy BB gun that you got when you were a kid. Like, they are stupidly accurate. And they're pushing some serious energy out.
Yeah.
That it's just so we've been having fun with that, and I've got another one coming. I actually ordered it at Western Hunting Expo. from Utah air guns.
Dude, those are
And
pretty slick.
dude, yeah, and I'm just like, I've been waiting. I've been checking my email for that shipping notification. It still hasn't shipped yet, and I'm just antsy to see it show up.
Did you go with the
And
45 cal or 50?
I have a 30 cal already, and we bought a 22.
Oh,
So yeah, a little bit further distance with it, higher magazine capacity. It uses less air, so you get more shots out of a tank before you have to recharge it. And it's kind of cool too because I mean, you look at some of those rifles, they're pushing out more, equal to, not maybe a little bit more of a lot of like real traditional firearms that you have to do a background check for and the whole ATF nonsense.
yep.
And then this air rifle, they ship it right to your door because it doesn't meet the definition of a firearm. So in a way, I feel like it's a little bit of like a middle finger to the or to the ATF. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's not a firearm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no combustion to it when it comes
Right.
to that. Yeah, I totally agree. Also, for people who have made poor decisions in their lives and are felons or like have these issues, but still want to be able to shoot or hunt,
You know.
like
Yep.
air rifles is an option. So
Yep.
yeah, it's interesting. Well, let's talk about government here for a second because you're an American. Yeah, everybody's favorite topic lately.
Right.
You're an American-made company, which I want to
Yep.
know why you chose to be American-made. American manufactured, and then we're going to get into this whole idea of what Trump is doing with the tariffs on other countries. That is going to eventually be a huge benefit to American manufacturing.
Right. Well, and I think this has been a long time coming. Um, so we decided early on that we really wanted to be American manufacturing. Just I mean, I really I love this country. I want to support this country. It's
Yeah.
the best country there is.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
um, but we decided we really wanted to do it in house and as well. I'll be honest. In the beginning, we tried when we were trying in that in between stage of me still at Ruger and kind of those last couple months, we explored trying to outsource manufacturing to another U.S. company, and your hands get tied to somebody else's schedule, somebody else's minimum, somebody else's pricing, and especially if you want to stay U.S. manufacturing. With U.S. manufacturing, our labor rates are so like it's so many times higher than all the other typical overseas manufacturing, which makes it really difficult. Where the typical manufacturer, they'll take a backpack that they can buy a complete full decked out backpack that has a lot of features for you know $30. They could sit there and have it landed at their door for $30 a piece. And if I was trying to make that same backpack, I'd have $40 just in materials. And the labor, for our average product that we make, materials account for 25% of our cost. The other 75% is labor. So the smallest portion for what we're doing is the materials. And we buy the best materials you can find here in the US. We really work hard at really sourcing awesome materials because we know that the real value comes in our people and our team on the floor sewing this together, and that's where most of the cost comes in. And so, when you look at all those other countries who are typically really good at sewing manufacturing, a lot of them have almost no alignment with our beliefs, especially within the Second Amendment community. They will not have those people will not have the freedoms or the ability that we can have here because their government restricts them.
Yeah.
They cannot have anything even close to what we have. So why would we sit there and give them all this money to do this, to manufacture our stuff for a hobby that they can't enjoy themselves? And so, or not just hobby, a piece of critical national security in some cases, and I think I don't know if I've talked about. Have you heard of the Berry Amendment? Um,
No, I'm not that familiar with that one.
so in the early '90s, there was a senator who it was saw that all this textile manufacturing was moving overseas, and it was congressman, senator, it was someone at the federal level saw that this was happening and was worried that as a country we would lose the capability to manufacture our own military textiles, mainly uniforms.
Yeah.
And if we went to if all of our uniforms are getting made over in China, and we go to war with China, we're going to have naked soldiers running around.
Yep.
So he passed the Berry Amendment, where all military textile products have to be, the materials have to be sourced in the U.S. Made, sourced in the U.S. The sewing labor has to happen in the U.S. And that really kind of helped save at least a small sliver of U.S. textile manufacturing, which was definitely a good thing, because we used to have hubs of textile processing. All along the New England area, there were some huge centers where we were producing all of the garments for the U.S. The Carolinas was huge, Southern California was huge, and it was just rapidly. It wasn't even a slow decline; it was a rapid decline when people realized they could use cheap foreign, basically slave labor, to produce their goods, bring it in here for really cheap, and make huge profits just flipping it. and um, and that I don't like that. I think that's wrong. I don't want to make money off the backs of cheap foreign workers.
Yeah.
Um, and so we made that decision very early on that we're going to for sure made in the U.S. And then now, after we tried two different product runs basically with outsourced manufacturing, and they did not go well. So we said, screw it, we're going to make it all in house. And so now we've just built it this way, and it allows us to grow and innovate our products internally. We build our products that fit our manufacturing style really, really well. And we think about that design for manufacturability. And then the big thing too is, you know, we really work hard at selling direct to the consumer, because the old model was, you have a company buys stuff from overseas, gets it in, sells it to a wholesaler who, they make a little bit of money, sell it to a dealer who makes a little
Right.
bit of money, and then finally it gets to the end consumer. And all those people in the end are in the middle. Sure, they provided value at the time before the internet, but now that we have the internet, like, we really push hard trying to sell direct to the consumer, and it allows us to cut out those middlemen. So we can provide gear. We're still higher than the cheap imports, but because we don't have to make room for all those other people in the middle to make money, we can still sell a product that the end user thinks has good value for the price that we're offering it at.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing for us.
Well, it's awesome to see companies like you doing it and staying true to it. There's a backpack company that I'm a huge fan of and a user of their products, and they used to be American manufactured. And then with the inflation of the last couple of years, they ended up going overseas. And it's
Yep.
sad to see that American flag get taken off their products, um, because to me, that means so much, right?
Right.
I'm a social studies teacher currently, and I had um, this one student. Uh, by the way, and I'm going to go off on a little tangent here for a second. A lot of people don't
Okay.
understand why the First Amendment is the freedom of speech and the power of words, and how words hold power. And in order for you to know words and use words appropriately, you need to know the definitions of words. And
Right.
ironically, this girl, she brought up her quiz to me, and she was like, "Hey, I don't understand this question." And it was all about tariffs. And I was like, "Aha, let's go. Let's
Yep.
talk about it. This is real world
Right.
stuff right now."
Right.
And so this idea is like, if we don't know words, we don't know the power of what we stand for and how we speak and how we operate and all this, then of course we're just going to be blown around by the wind. Of course we're not going to
Right.
hold any true value to anything. Like the First Amendment was number one for a reason, because without that, nothing else
Nothing
matters.
else matters. Right. Well, and with the whole tariff thing, our federal government just over 100 years ago operated mainly off of tariffs alone.
Yes.
There was no income tax. Like they were able, and sure they had a whole lot less services, and we have a whole bunch of other expenditures now that we can sit here and try to talk, is it worth it or not? But you know, tariffs have always been, or historically used to be, a huge part of our federal government's revenue.
Yeah.
And when you look at what other countries do to our stuff when it comes in versus what we do for their stuff when it gets shipped into here, it's been completely out of balance for a long, long time. And our trade deficits are walking us down a path that is unsustainable. And where real value comes in is from manufacturing, and we have to as a country, if we want to survive, have to be producing more goods, and services are good, but manufacturing allows for a large group of people to have a good, solid middle class income that provides for them and their family.
Hmm.
And yeah, so when you know, I don't know the exact numbers, but the dairy tariffs that our stuff, when we try to ship milk into Canada,
Hmm.
uh, and the tariffs that they were charging us versus what we were charging them, because they were trying to protect their farmers in Canada. It was completely out of balance. And when we try to ship our gear overseas, my goodness, it gets so expensive to ship our stuff overseas because their governments just don't want. They want to protect their own internal domestic companies. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to pick, do I want some no name, Bangladesh company to reap all, be able to come over here and with wages that are not even livable over here,
Hmm.
be able to bring their products in and absolutely crush an industry
Yeah.
that has a whole bunch of people employed? No, no, none of us want that. And sure, everybody likes cheap stuff, and we want to buy cheap goods, but it's you know, and I'm not anti trade, but just at the level that we were just imbalanced, it's unsustainable.
Yeah. Well, and that's the point of that I made to the student. As the whole question was like, how do tariffs help the American people? And she's like, well, first off, I have no idea what a tariff is. It's like, well,
Oh,
words
oh,
words matter.
where's your
Like,
English teacher?
yeah, exactly. So we broke that down, and I was like, it helps American people because when you are creating a product and buying a product, that money, it takes money to purchase that product and then to manufacture it. Do you want that money going out of the country, or do you want it going into our country and into our communities and
Right.
circulating within our communities? And she's like, okay, yeah, we want to have it circulating within our communities. I was like, yes. Now, when it comes time to selling a product, because America, we have a standard of living and value higher, but inflation also plays a role into that. Of it costs more to make it here, but the
Right.
money stays here rather than
Right.
making it super cheap, but the money's going elsewhere. And it's just, you know, there are going to be a lot of companies in probably in the hunting world and the hunting and shooting industry that are going to take a hit here in maybe the next year and a half, 2 years, depending on how this policy shakes loose, um,
Right.
because they're manufacturing overseas versus the ones who are actually making in America and are going to benefit and reap the rewards. And now, even if you've done well, now you're going to be that much more ahead and really leading the charge.
Yeah. What I've been kind of comparing it to is, we are a bunch of crackheads trying to come off crack right now.
Yeah.
And you know what? Yes, withdrawals suck, and there's going to be some pains going along. But if we give it a couple of years and stay this path, we will come out so much better, so much stronger in the end.
Yeah.
Yes, there's going to be some pain here, but we need to. What has been happening is just, it's not right. It's not fair. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's a change that needed to happen. And and I hope people realize too that like there's a different level of relationship with U.S. made versus foreign made. When people need help or have an issue with one of our products, they call in and there's like one of three people who are going to answer the phone, and four people. And what I've told all the other people, like, just make the customer happy. And there's times where we sit there and bend over way too far backwards to make that customer happy, because it's how I would want, it's how I would want to be treated. And I want to build, the term that I use is lifetime customers.
Mhm.
You know what? If we lose maybe a little bit of margin on one sale because, we're giving too much, to help out a customer. But you know what? I'm hoping that the next time around when they're looking something along our lines that we can produce, they don't even bother looking anywhere else because they know that if they get it from us, that they're just going to be taken care of,
Right.
and they don't. That's it.
Yeah.
And where there's a lot of, when you go on Amazon and look at all these whatever Bengzagi equipment, manufacturer. Good luck getting a hold of Mr. Benghazi or Benzagi, or I saw it the other day where they're completely knocking off somebody else's stuff, and I'm like, guys, just don't fall for their trap.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to read a quote here, and this might rub people wrong, but it's a quote from one of our most awesome presidents, and this is from Theodore Roosevelt. And
Okay.
before I read this quote, I just want a couple of comments. Send it 110 says dairy is above 200%. So tariff
You're right.
on going into Canada is over 200%. Chris McAnally says optics going to be crazy. Yeah, all these optics manufacturers that are getting glass and everything
Right.
out of the country. Whew, oh baby, let's get ready for that.
Right.
All right, so this quote is from Theodore Roosevelt. Now this says, any man who says he is an American but something else also isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is an American loyalty to the American people. President Roosevelt was a savage, just an absolute savage. He was a man who got shot and finished his speech.
Right.
Like, true definition of a Rough Rider.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I will say the other thing that I think that makes America so unique is, yes, I think, we need to have one. When I say flag, it's not the actual flag itself, but it's more the ideals of the American philosophy. We can also sit there and have, and I'm kind of coming at this from a I don't know, mixed nationality household.
Your wife's from
Yeah.
Latvia. Yeah.
Right. Right. My wife has dual citizenship. My kids have dual citizenship. They all are bilingual, but like, it's America's the only place where, we can bring in all these different people. And the original intent is we all come in and work together to make it better for the American ideals, which is, the American dream of just work hard and be rewarded for your work, but yet still celebrate other cultures and other, celebrate other cultures and not be offended by it. So, the thing that I like to talk about too is like, if someone came up to me during the Christmas season and said, Happy Hanukkah,
Yeah.
I would say, thank you. Happy Hanukkah to you too.
Right.
Like, I don't really care, because the the intent of that, that interaction right there was out of like love and genuine, just being a good person.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And we should all be able to sit there and happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, happy Merry Christmas, and just be happy with it and be like, all right, you do you, man. And I guess I love you as an American.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, sometimes we get so stuck on some of these other details that just don't matter.
Yeah.
And we should be looking at like, how do we make this the best place for everybody? And how do we make this the most productive and successful country out there? Because, we can sit there and countries who don't produce eventually die.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I love your response, by the way. And that, Teddy Roosevelt, he did a lot for hunting.
Yeah.
He created national
Oh,
parks. Like the dude loved America. And
right.
that's something to not be forgot. Um, when it comes to this this idea of like what's happening in the future in politics, we in historically in society have been taught, or maybe not necessarily taught, but like silently pushed towards, you never talk about money, religion, and politics. But yet those are the
Right.
three foundational things that make us who we are and how we operate within our world and society. And if
Right.
we can talk about it and exactly what you said without getting offended, right? Like,
Right.
ooh, that hurt me. Like we could talk about it
Right.
without getting offended, then that is how iron sharpens iron, making one,
Right.
making
Right.
yourself better and sharper. And you only know what you know until you experience new things and hear it from
Right.
different things. A diamond is only as beautiful as the facets in which it holds, and that's what gives it its sparkle, right? So if it was just
Right.
one flat stone, it'd be like, oh, well, that's boring. So
A raw diamond is ugly.
yeah, yeah. So, dude, I love it. I love that you can articulate this. You're not afraid to talk about it, and that is also another reason why I love Cole-TAC and what you've been doing is because you stand for something, right? And the whole quote, what Abraham Lincoln, you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Right.
So, brother, let's talk a little bit about your hunting journey. You've been
Ah,
quite successful on a lot of different endeavors, but more or less not so much about the success. Like you've just had a lot of experiences. You've been at it for quite some time.
well, I don't know about yes and no. You know, like I said, I grew up in Wisconsin. Um, my dad, as a little kid, I my dad would always go to deer hunt in Wisconsin. Deer hunting is basically a religion.
Hmm.
It's the rifle season is 9 days long. It starts the Saturday before Thanksgiving and ends the Sunday after, and that's it. Um, and like when as a little kid, he would always go up. All right, I'm going deer hunting, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait. And it was always this like countdown to when I could go with dad to deer camp.
Yeah.
And uh, so and that's where kind of my love for this happened was just kind of bonding time with my dad. I wanted to be one of the guys. I wanted to get out and do that kind of stuff. I wanted to go to the hunting shack and not take a shower for 4 days in a row and burp and fart and do all those play poker, all those things that
Yeah.
you know that you dream of doing when you're that age. And from then it just grew from there where it's this pursuit for its adventure. Like that's where I'm at. And not just hunting, but fishing, some of these things that I'm trying to do now, it's just they're all adventure, and hunting's a great avenue
Hmm.
to seek out adventure. Um, but yeah, it grew there where uh, just trying to get out there. And I will say I was really naive as a Wisconsin just deer hunter. I'll never forget, uh, like 2-3 weeks in, while I was at Ruger, they sent me down to the FTW ranch down in Texas there.
Hmm.
So they at the time, I don't know if they're still doing this, but like new engineers, they would send them down there to go through through Tim's long range shooting course, because they hire people who don't know anything about shooting.
Right.
So they're like, well, if you're going to work on rifles, you got to at least know how to shoot. So, and I was in Tim's lodge there, and actually Razor Dobbs, which if people know who that is, he's a hunting show personality, really just cool guy. He was there at the same time, and we were walking around Tim's lodge with all the animals throughout, the world, just the walls covered with them. It's a museum. And, I thought, I knew about moose and caribou and, maybe a sheep or two. But here I was walking with, I remember we were having a beer with Razor Dobbs, and, oh, here's, the blue wildebeest and the black wildebeest and like the golden wildebeest. And then, oh, here's all these different, orcs. And I'm like, orcs, what the freak's an orcs? And like he was showing all these different things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that these animals even existed, let alone go hunt them. And that's been a neat adventure, is going to some of these places and just experiencing the the different areas and animals, and just seeing, like, they're just gorgeous areas usually where these animals come from, or and not just gorgeous areas, but like you have to have some respect for some of these animals that were the places that they live in.
Yeah.
It's some of the most just gnarly places on earth. And here they are thriving. And it's like, how the heck do you live out here? I'm out here. I've been out here for all of 4 hours, and I just want to crawl in a hole and just go back home.
Right.
Like, and here you are sitting here like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So no, hunting has been a cool journey. And I will say, as of more recently, it's been a fun journey for my wife and I, which is weird. Like she grew up in Latvia, where, women don't hunt. Like that's, especially when she was there, like it's kind of not necessarily taboo, but like that was not a woman's place.
Right.
And she's really started enjoying, again, the adventure part of it. Like, let's go to this area, go explore it, go see it, back in the backcountry, not the touristy, thrift shop or the touristy gift shop where you can buy, 3 t-shirts for $19.99. It's, going back in the country and seeing some of these animals in their, natural areas and going after them. And so we've had a really good time, just us two as a couple, exploring areas and using hunting as that kind of avenue.
Man, that is so awesome. Yeah, like I've been to Yellowstone, but I've never hiked in Yellowstone. I would love to actually get out there and explore and see the world from not just the concrete, right? Like go.
Right.
There's a movie, Garden State. Do you remember the movie Garden State?
I don't.
Zach Braff and I don't know, a bunch of other people. Anyways, the whole point is like this dude meets this girl, and his dad just died, and he's really depressed, and he feels very numb to the world. But he meets this girl, and her perspective on the world is, you have the opportunity to be the very first person to ever do something in this exact location.
Right.
And when you view the world in that perspective, it's like,
that's cool. That's huge.
That's empowering, right? Like, here we go. Let's stake our flag. Let's leave a legacy. Let's do this. Let's live. Get busy living.
Right.
And I really, like, that always stood out to me. And I was like, oh, I love that. When I'm out on a hunt. And, I used to work at REI selling backpacks and selling hiking gear. And that was my thing, is I started backpacking at a young age. And it wasn't until my 30s that I got into hunting and took firearm safety and hunter safety and all this stuff. Well, in hiking, it's stay on your trail, stay on your trail, stay on your trail. And it's constantly, we're taught, color inside the lines. And all of a sudden you become a hunter, and it's, dude, you better get off the trail. You go blaze your own trail. Go color outside the lines. Make your mark. Like,
that's cool.
Yeah, live.
That's a cool way to look at it.
And that was like mind blowing to me. So Yeah, well, there's something to chew on, right? Like, and that's why I always say that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure.
Right.
Because that primal adventure of the unknown that someone
Right.
else has maybe never experienced or has never seen it from that perspective, or everyone has an opinion. Very few people have experiences which lead to a true perspective and can speak on a topic. Other than
Right.
that, we're just echo chambers of what other people say, talking heads.
Right. Well, and you know, uh, along those lines, I uh, I'm pretty excited about my next big adventure that I'm kind of prepping for, and I may ask you for advice on this because I've never done a true backcountry hunt. I've done backcountry fishing trips, and
Mhm.
but like this fall, I've got a British Columbia backcountry mule deer hunt.
Cool.
Yeah, where it's from the sounds of everything from what I've been talking. I've been pretty close talking with the guide to make sure we're all prepped. But it's here you go. It's just north of the Montana border, so basically Glacier National Park.
Okay.
That type of real rugged terrain
Yes. Beautiful
up
area.
in up in those mountains over there, and we're gonna hike 8 to 15 miles back in the middle of nowhere and just start trying to find a mule deer. And what's really neat, and I'm most excited about, is I'm doing it with my dad. He is 65
Mm.
and still in good health, good shape, and can do stuff like this. And I'm trying to use this time while I still can, with him because we're not, you know, I'm not guaranteed tomorrow, but as we're getting out there, it gets the clock gets tighter and tighter, and nobody knows that time. But trying to for me, this is an early September hunt in there. I've now kind of got like, all right, I've got my mental checklist. No, not even a mental. I've got a written checklist actually of all right. Here's the things that uh, I need to get done you know, gear wise, gun wise, physical wise, like, and it's something that I can keep pushing towards between now and then to get ready for.
Mhm.
And I'm yes, I'm looking forward to the hunt, but honestly, already, it's March and the hunt is in September. I'm enjoying the process of just even getting ready for this kind of stuff, and like
Yes.
that's I need stuff like this to kind of. I need the next goal. I need the next you know,
Yeah.
adventure to kind of keep pushing me forward.
The anticipation is some of the best parts,
Oh,
right?
yeah, I can't wait.
There was Andrew McKeon of Outdoor Life magazine. I talked with him, had him on the podcast, and he said, he goes, I can't hunt high fence. He goes, I'm not like a public land snob or whatever, but I can't hunt high fence because if I know the end result of it, if I know what the outcome's going to be, then I don't want to do it. Because I don't think I'd hunt if I knew how it would always turn out. But because I don't know, and it's the unknown, he goes, that's what gets me really excited and makes me enjoy the process that much more. My wife, though, to your point, is the exact same. She's like, I want to have something to look forward to. Her big thing is
Right,
traveling and
right.
experiencing different locations and all that. But yeah, I
Well, and yeah, I'll offer a counterpoint to the high fence thing, and not that I think high fence has a place.
yeah, I would
Um,
agree to that.
right, and so especially when it comes to Texas is like the prime example. There are species in high fences in Texas that you can no longer hunt anywhere else but within those fences.
Hmm.
The only reason those species still exist is because Texas is keeping them alive for hunters to go down. And so, yes, you when you go to a high fence, you kind of know the end. You're gonna shoot at you're gonna at least shoot at something.
At
More than
something,
likely,
yep.
you're gonna yeah. But it's this, some of these species that you can hunt down there are stuff that just don't exist in the wild anymore. And so it's like, it's a neat, or I don't know, need is the right word, but it's definitely it's it's cool. Yeah, it's interesting to think that hunting is the reason that these species still exist and survive.
Yes.
And the day that hunters quit showing interest in these animals is the day that the species is probably going to die
Yeah.
completely.
There's no value to the animal anymore, and therefore, what's the purpose of having it, keeping it alive
Right.
and keeping it
Because
around?
because right, because the native land that they came from, they've already wiped them out and they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I yes, I agree with there's pros and cons to both. And both have a place. And so yeah, I don't dog on high fence. I've done high fence black buck down in Texas and had a heck of a time doing it because you can't. And what's interesting. I was in last May. My wife and I we were in New Zealand hunting, and then we spent a couple extra days, several days actually after the hunt, going and touring around New Zealand. And there was a mountain that we hiked afterwards, and it's a 13 or 14 mile hike up and over this mountain. It's I think it's where they filmed part of like the Mount Doom scenes from Lord of the Rings. My wife's a
Oh,
Lord of
okay.
the Rings
Yeah.
geek, and we're doing this hike, and we actually got we were kind of neck and neck, or hiking. We all kind of started. You get a bus ride to the start, and so there's usually a group that kind of all goes together. And there was this guy from India, Donald. I don't know if Donald's his real name, but that's
His
he
trail
goes
name.
by Donald.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's from India. He's actually an oncologist in India, and him and I still talk. But I remember we were hiking, and we every once in a while as we were passing, we would chit chat lightly. And as you're there as a hunter, you don't know everybody else's reasons for being there, and you don't want to offend people. So it was a little bit of a I wanted to be careful because I don't want to piss people off.
Hmm.
Not that I care, but at the same time, I'm not there to get into an argument with somebody. I'm there to have fun and do my own thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, after a while, I was like, yeah, my wife and I we were here, we were hunting the last week. Really, you can hunt animals in New Zealand? And I'm like, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a great place to go hunt animals. And he's like, wow, he had no idea. And then, black bucks are native to India. And we started talking about all the things that I've hunted. And when I told him, oh yeah, I hunted black bucks, he's like, there's no way. You're like, they're only, a small number in national parks in India. There's no way. And I showed him the picture of my dead black buck in Texas, and he was just blown away. And in the end, we made actually a really good friendship, and we text through WhatsApp. And like it's kind of funny, seeing how high fence hunting allows for stuff that people in their black bucks are native to India. A very smart, well-educated guy from India had no idea that there's a population of black bucks in Texas
Yeah.
that is probably, I don't know, is probably bigger than in India. And people go there and hunt them.
Yeah.
And and just those conversations built a friendship between the two of us.
Well, that is just a great reminder to remember us as hunters and shooters, because shooting has its own place in conversation, is that we are always ambassadors for the things we love and do
Right.
wherever we go at any time, because you
Right.
never know what conversations are going to happen or who's watching or what's like it goes with us everywhere. My first my first big game animal I ever killed was a black bear 9 miles in the backcountry. And I shot it in front of a female yoga instructor from Seattle and two of her male students. She actually spotted the bear for me. And I'm in camo, it's August, it's hot, and they come
Yeah.
hiking in and, you know, why are you in camo? We're hunting. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's hunting season. Okay. Well, what are you hunting? Black bears. You can hunt black bears? Yeah, you can.
Right.
Well, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to eat it. Well, well,
Right.
you're going to pack it off this mountain. Yeah, I'm going to carry this whole thing all the way out. And it's
Right.
like just the conversation that blew up is really fascinating, really
Right.
fascinating.
For
So,
sure.
um,
And and I don't know if I had to guess, she probably had maybe some preconceived notions of hunters before that.
yep.
And and maybe it didn't fully change her mind, but at least it put a spark in her mind, that interaction,
Yeah.
that, you know what, maybe all the hunters aren't the redneck Billy Bobs just going out to kill for fun and, you know, running over baby bunnies just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
We're actually, people who care about, conservation, care about trying to, grow this, trying to share the heritage and all that. So yeah, you never know
Yeah.
when you're going to be looked at as, like you said, an ambassador
Hmm.
to the entire lifestyle.
Yeah, 100%. Fire Diz on here on Instagram says, "For the money, outfitters are charging and are better off. You are better off going to a ranch these days. Yeah, or the amount of money it costs to go to Africa and hunt or out of country. Like you can have these opportunities in Texas and go into a ranch. That's totally true. Also, he commented the showroom setup and open for business in Rapid City. Yeah, Cole-TAC's based out of Rapid City, South Dakota. Beautiful place.
Yeah. Yeah. We moved. So, we started out in New Hampshire, but in 2021, we started the process of moving our entire operation out here to Rapid City, South Dakota. And honestly, uh, I am so happy, grateful, thankful that we actually did this move, and because it allowed us to grow and get a team together out here. And just the big difference between especially out here versus New Hampshire, is our opportunities for hunting and recreation. There's so much public land.
Yeah.
We have national forests, we have BLM, we've got, all this stuff that we're all sharing it together, and it's just awesome out here.
Yeah. Man, I love that. I
Yeah.
love it. I actually, my wife and I almost, when we were looking at moving, we considered Rapid City. Um, I think it's a beautiful place. Fire Diz says, not as beautiful as Hill City. So,
Well, okay. Hill City is a half hour away from Rapid City. Not even. It's Hill City, yeah. But it's in the Black Hills here. It's a cool city. I wish, but the problem is the Hill City has like 14 people living there, maybe 16 on a good day,
yeah.
and we can't hire enough people out of there.
Right.
But no, they're actually, it's a decent sized city, but it's just not. Rapid City is big enough where we can actually run a shop out of here.
Yeah, love it, brother. What are some things that you got coming out here in 2025? I know you just released your holster for a suppressed pistol. That is awesome because there we go. Because shooting
Yeah.
suppressed is the best, and if you don't have a holster for your pistol that has a suppressor on it, it's like, okay, well, do I have to go fanny
What do I
pack
do with
style?
it?
Yeah, what do I do? Do I carry a hand muff around my waist, which you guys do make, and
Right.
start sticking it in there? Um, yeah, what do you got going on?
Well, so yeah, so I would say, the Varmint Wrangler, our 22 suppressed holster. Um, I knew it was going to be a good option for people, because it's something that I've run into personally, where I like having a suppressed 22 with me, but they suck to carry. You don't want them on your waist because like they're just so long and kind of cumbersome.
Yep.
I just want them right here, so that way, as you're bobbing around on a side by side or hiking around, it's right there ready to go. But that has just blown up. We've got a cell right now that all day long basically just makes those, and does everything it can to keep up. And we've added some pretty impressive. Our biggest CNC sewing machine that we've ever owned is basically it's only dedicated. The only program that we have for it right now is for those.
Mm.
So like it just runs those. Well, since we're here, and the couple people who are listening, I'll share Thursday. Well, there's a couple tripod centric products that are coming out. The next two products that are coming out are both tripod accessories.
Okay.
Because I will say, uh, 5 to 8 years ago, I never used really a tripod. It was something that I just never thought about. Today, if I'm rifle hunting, I do not go out without a tripod is with me.
Yeah.
I always have a tripod with me. So I'll say it Thursday. On Thursday, we're releasing our tripod staking set. I don't have any here. It's probably more for the competitive shooting world, because when you're shooting at a match, you have your tripod set up, and usually it's set up with a spotting scope, a rangefinder, some wind reading. Like, it's fully decked out. If you've ever been to a match where like there's 2-3 grand sitting worth of equipment on top of it at least,
Right.
and it doesn't take much of a wind to catch it because you have so much stuff up there to catch it and tip it over.
Yes.
So, and you break stuff. I've broken 2 sets of binos off of tripods tipping over. So we've got it's a strap that goes onto the foot of the tripod. You stake it down into the ground, and so that's coming out Thursday. It's a really simple idea that when we first started thinking of it, I was like, well, it's already got to be out there. Somebody has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were looking and it's like, nobody's doing it. I guess here we go. And, especially here in South Dakota, we're known for our wins. So it's just a really simple solution to a problem that really, really exists. And then after that, it's a storage system that goes onto the tripod, and I'm really excited about it. And that's probably about the most of the information that I'm going to share on it. But it's just trying to increase the capability of your tripod, because for me it's become such an essential part of my kit.
Yep.
Especially at matches, but even so at hunting, or with hunting. I want to. It's a tool that I carry with me now anytime I go out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to make that thing as capable as possible.
That is awesome. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
we're working on some new suppressor cover materials, kind of when we're getting with the temperatures that we're trying to deal with, there's some science and chemistry and working with, because we don't make fabrics, but we work with our vendors who make our fabrics,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get different materials to be able to take the extreme heats that we're seeing. And the big thing, people want colors and camo patterns. So how can we get, the biggest problem that we run into with suppressor covers is getting dyes in the fabrics to withstand the temperatures. Like, the fabric itself can handle the temperatures, but the dyes that go into it get cooked out.
That makes
And
sense.
so, like, some skunk work stuff, skunk works is maybe an exaggeration, but like, there's more chemistry involved, trying to figure out how can we get, how can we get different color options and different materials to get to those high temperatures that some people see. Yeah, we're constantly working on a whole host of new products. We've got a list internally of our new product development, and we sit there and try to shuffle that as far as priority. Because I want to do everything. I want to do all the products right now, tomorrow, but it's not realistic. So we have to set priorities. And now that we've got a team, it helps trying to get some of this stuff done, but we still have to set priorities. So that's the one thing for us, especially being the manufacturer, is we can try out new things and release a new product because we made it, and we'll, if we're not really sure how well it'll do, we'll do a small run of it. And if it doesn't work, okay, we learn from it and tweak it. And if it does work really well, then all right, in 2 days we're going to start the next production run, and we'll be golden.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing I would say with us being the manufacturer, and with U.S. manufacturing, is we can experiment and try and learn from both successes and failures, and keep fine tuning our product offerings into what our customers really want.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will say, and you talked about your backcountry mule deer hunt. that being like your first real like backcountry style hunt, is one of the best things that you can do for yourself besides having a good pair of boots and a backpack is have only packing items that have multiple uses. And
Right.
and so I'm already in my head thinking about, is it your cuddle bag? Yes, the one that you wrap under your arm is like can also be a pillow or a shooting
A
bag or
glassing pad.
yes,
Yep.
like yeah.
Yeah. So that this is the Trekker bag is coming with me. But yeah, trying to find like you said, multiple use items, and yeah, that's a definite. So, and actually, where we're going for this mule deer hunt, the outfitter, the only way it really works, because according to them, the country is too rugged for even horses, like to do any real hunting with. Um, this summer, as they're scouting and getting ready, they're going to be having water stashes out there because there's no water out there.
Ooh.
So they sit there and are, I guess, stashing water out in the middle of the woods, and they're going to drop pins of where it's at because for how long we're going to be out there,
Uh-huh.
you can't pack in enough water to make it work.
Yeah.
So, and there's no water sources even to filter out or to purify out. So you just gotta there that's how we're getting away with this one. Um, yeah, it's going to be an adventure, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay, a couple questions I'm gonna hit you with. Um, Suppressor covers. Uh,
Yep.
Velcro wrap or the weave? What's your preference?
It really depends on the application. So if you are shooting, rapid fire, semi-auto, full auto, or anything short-barreled ARs are the worst thing in the world as far as heat mitigation. When you have a 14, 12, or 10-inch AR, most of the rounds are developed to burn out of a 16-inch AR, but you have all that chopped off. So most of the combustion's happening now, or a big chunk that's happening in the suppressor itself.
Mm-hmm.
The short-barreled SBRs get so hot so fast that it's beyond temperatures that Velcro can handle or Cordura can handle. So that's where our corset, because we're using Kevlar, Nomex, we're using high temperature, high, um, you know, it's all high temperature materials to the extreme, and there's no hardware, no metal to get hot. That's where the corset with the laces come in handy. And that's what we if it's an SBR, that's the only thing we recommend. If you're doing bolt action, if you're doing bolt action competitions or sighting in or hunting, and our Velcro strap covers work more than fine, and actually they do a little bit better because in those situations you're more worried about mirage.
Mm.
They do a little bit better with mirage mitigation, and you don't have to worry about them. You're not going to get them hot enough to where you have to worry about anything melting. And again, all of our stuff has a lifetime warranty. So even if you take your Velcros, your Velcro cover that we say don't use on a short barreled AR,
Mm-hmm.
and you start shooting on an AR and you melt it, we're going to cover it. I'm going to grumble and cry, and it happens all the time. But we do it.
Yeah.
We do it anyway. We fix, repair, replace covers. That happens to all the time. It happens. But for hunting type applications or competitive shooting, I prefer the other version because it does a little bit better job for mirage mitigation, which is more important than when you're sitting there mag dumping an SBR at short distances. Nobody cares about mirage at that point. It's more of a safety thing. I don't want to burn my leg with this, hot 6-inch long metal pipe.
Yeah, especially with the sling, and then if you sling it down, and
Oh,
yes,
I've got some. Yeah, most people who do that have some sweet scars on the inside of their legs. I've got one where I burnt through my pants and before I got into covers, and just absolutely torched the inside of my leg.
yeah, I have a burn mark on my top of my foot because I went to the gun range. I was shooting a 22 pistol suppress and a 22 casing fell in my shoe and burned the top of my foot. And I like trying to, quickly get that out. And dude, just that little thing got me. So I can only
Right.
imagine how hot a suppressor is when you're brushing
Dude,
that against your skin.
yeah. So I remember a long time, a while ago now. We're still back out in New Hampshire. We were out shooting with buddies out at the sand pit, just mag dumping like crazy. And they took they were borrowing a rifle and they leaned it up against, I had an old piece of junk Toyota pickup truck. It was before they had Tacomas. It was the Toyota pickup truck.
Yeah, yeah.
He leaned it up against the truck and didn't think about it. And all of a sudden we're all standing around talking and we're like, what the heck's burning? We look back and the suppressor had melted this like perfect half moon through the bumper. It sat there, just melted the bumper in. And I was like, oh. And the thing had a wood bed because the original bed rusted off. It didn't matter at that point. But those things get so hot so fast.
Yeah. Oh, so true. What's your favorite product you make?
So I really like, and I think it's the most uh I don't know if I don't boy, it hurts me to say this. The under-respected product of ours, maybe, is our Scout rig. So it's a chest mounted, it's basically the size. Yeah, okay, here we go. Yeah.
It's like a bino harness, but it's a pouch on your front. It's perfect for turkey hunters and
Turkey
fly
or like,
fishermen. Like,
yeah, well, and honestly, the coolest feature I think is there's a kangaroo pouch here in the back. So for me, oh, my phone's right here. I can't show you, but you could tuck your phone in there. So like when you're sitting down somewhere, when you're sitting down, trying to reach into your pockets can be a pain because you're sitting at that angle. Where with this, you just reach in, you can grab it out,
yeah.
and it's so handy. So I really like that one. And then probably our flat bag with the Arca Square backbone frame to go on a tripod. This is my go-to when it comes to shooting off tripods. So you know, a lot of people have rails on their rifles now, or some of the way to, or the grips that grab onto the side, which I've really never been a fan of because I think they're hard to operate and maneuver.
Uh huh.
That bag, you clamp into your tripod, you set it on top, and you have this awesome platform that's up and above, whatever brush or shrubs or whatever you're trying to shoot over, and it's a really stable platform. So that's a big one too for me.
Man, I have that and I love that. I use it especially with my kids, teaching them how to steady a rifle, but having enough support that, dude, I even had them shooting a BB gun off of that in the backyard. Just
Yep.
getting used to resting that gun on something and holding stable. Huge. Love that one. Love that.
Yep.
Couple comments. Link's Defense says I have a plastic folding table with a permanent suppressor imprint in it. Yep. I
Okay.
realized.
Can I give a shout out to Lynx Defense real quick?
Yeah.
Lynx Defense, they're out in North Carolina. They are actually making rifle cases here in the U.S. And like does phenomenal work. And that's what I think is kind of cool amongst I don't know what you'd call it, the firearms sewing community, which there is a small firearms sewing community. We stick together and try to help each other out the best we can.
Yeah.
And I think in some other industries, they would try to look at someone like that as a competitor. And for us, it's like, heck yes, let's make more in the U.S.
Yeah.
and not import junk from people who hate us. So if people are looking for a kick-ass rifle or pistol case or range bag, Lynx Defense has some awesome stuff.
See, I love that. Taking care of and loving on one another, especially in the industry. That's awesome. Says a lot
Yeah.
about your character, Dustin. Well done. Chris McAnally says, does Cole-TAC make a front and rear squeeze bag for the bench that are heavy fill? Second question is, do they make a bag that mounts to an Arca rail? So I think you kind of already covered that with the flat top bag, but maybe.
Right. Well. So okay. So there, I will say, and thank you, Marshall, for having this stuff staged and ready for me. So what I showed was the backbone frame with the Arca square. So this is the female Arca attachment. So it goes into an Arca clamp. We also have the frame that has an Arca clamp. So if you wanted to clamp this onto your rifle, this same bag, because these straps come off, there's 4 straps holding it on.
Hmm.
You can swap out this frame, put on this frame, and clamp it to your rifle. So then as you move around with your rifle, the bag is attached to your rifle. So yes, we do make that. But I will say the heavy fill. Okay, so now this is a huge huge debate within the shooting community. Heavy fill, light fill. It's honestly like a bunch of women with their shoes. My goodness, nobody can make up their mind. And I've kind of honestly a little bit stopped trying to make people happy with what like fill we use, because I feel like you're never going to make them happy. So we use what most people would consider light fill, but all of our bags have adjustable fill ports. So, this is a piece of Velcro. You open it up, you can dump out the fill, and you can put in sand, which is for most people way cheaper than we use a very specific lightweight fill that doesn't absorb moisture, doesn't absorb water. It's a really stable fill. It's what I would prefer. It's what I prefer to carry around because I don't want to carry around. If you fill one of our tricorn bags, one of our really cool, the thing
Yep.
right there, those bags, you fill one of those with sand. We've done it. They're like 9 or 10 pounds. I don't want to carry around a 10-pound bag, where that's a pound and a half with the fill that we use.
Yeah.
But it has an adjustable fill port. So we fill them with our fill. And then if people get it and want to go to, their local Home Depot or Lowe's and buy play sand, that's what you can do. Dump out our fill, put in your play sand, carry around all that weight that you want, and whatever.
Yeah.
We feel like that's a better option for the consumer than filling it with heavy fill and then having them try to source a more, I don't know if high performance is the right word, but like a harder to find, a harder to source type fill.
Yeah. So for the guys who are backcountry hunting and ounces matter, you only offer one weight of a fill. Um,
Well,
are there
it
lighter options?
depends.
Okay.
It depends.
Yeah. Talk about that.
So, okay. So like our Whoopie bag, which is a smaller, it's smaller bag. Here we call it internally, we call it our heavy fill, but when most people talk about it, it's a light fill, where it's very different in the Trekker bag. This smaller bag, the gray bag here, is 2.5 times heavier than this bigger bag because of the type we fill. So we have light fill and extra light fill, maybe is probably the better way to put it.
Okay.
Because again, I don't want to carry around. I don't. There is some performance difference. Heavier bags do steady a rifle. They can in a lot of different situations steady a rifle better. But the such minute difference that it makes, it's not worth it for me to try to carry that around.
Mhm.
So that's why we made that decision. Is when we go to shooting matches, I'm not placing in the match because of the type of fill that I have in my bag. It's because I just don't practice enough. Like, like I'm not as good as I should be, and I need to practice more. But when I'm there at the match, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy the day, and I don't want to be carrying around a whole bunch of sand.
Yeah.
So and again, like I said, sand is easier for the end consumer to find and source locally, and I don't want to be shipping it. That's the other thing too, is shipping sand is kind of silly.
Here's a box of rocks. I'm paying for all that extra weight. Yeah.
Right. Go to your local store and buy some sand, dump out ours, put in whatever sand you want, and call it a day.
Yeah. I love that. That makes complete sense, especially because you're direct to consumer. All right. This question came from earlier, and I want to get to it. This is more of a personal question I'm going to ask you. Fire Diz says, "You guys ever use any tricer tripods or heads?" I have held them, experienced them, and never hunted with them or shot off of them. They seem phenomenal. What tripod are you running?
So it really depends. There's several really good brands out there. And it so Tricer was right behind us at the Western Hunting Expo there in Salt Lake. We were literally back to back. So that was my first experience with them. They seemed like they're really nice tripods, but I have yet to actually use them anywhere. So for competitions, I really like the Two Vets tripods. I use those. They're phenomenal and just really well built. The guy Dan McNamee who runs it and started it is a huge supporter of the competitive shooting world. So it's always nice to support people who support the sport.
Hmm.
So that's great for hunting. My new tripod that I just picked up, Asiac equipment.
Okay, yeah.
Dude, those tripods, I'm blown away. And it's he specializes in backcountry hunting tripods. The one that I've got over here, it's 20 ounces. 20 ounces for a tripod with the head decked out, ready to go.
Really?
It's obnoxious. It's obnoxious. And what's funny is it's set up outside in my office over there because we're constantly trying to develop stuff for tripods and work on stuff. So like I kind of have my people are making fun of me of the collection of tripods that I have sitting outside my office. And the joke that I've been saying for a while, because it started with like 2 and then 3 and then 4. I'm like, oh, they're just making babies. Don't worry about it. Because it's just growing. My tripod fleet is growing. But no, that one, everybody who picks that one up, they're like, it's one of those things that you pick it up and you could see people like they overcompensate because they think it's going to be heavier.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like, it weighs like nothing. So yeah, Rydell makes some really cool backcountry centric tripods.
I'm on Asiac's website because they are innovating, creating some stuff. Did you go with
Yeah.
their ball head? Or
So I went with the Ridgeline is their 20 ounce. It's a little bit shorter than most. You can't stand behind it, but in most hunting applications, I find it better to kneel behind a tripod, and that gets you up and over most of the vegetation. I think, some of those Alaskan moose hunts where you're in chest high vegetation, it probably won't work.
yeah,
But for most others, you put our flat bag on it, and it's going to be a lightweight, super solid, stable platform. So yeah, so I got the Ridgeline and their front line, which is kind of their in between. But like that lightweight tripod is pretty cool.
that's awesome. That's awesome, brother. Is there anything you want to cover before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, I don't know what do you want to know about us? I mean,
Dude, you
I it's always good when we catch up, and again, I'm gonna give you a hard time about we should have had this podcast in Salt Lake, but priorities, family, I guess, whatever
so
that is.
lame, right?
I know, lame. But no, I'm happy to be a part of this, be a part of your journey. I mean, it's cool to see you've been growing quite a bit.
I appreciate that.
And
Thank you.
yeah.
Love your
So
ammo
no,
wallet. That's a huge shout out. Yeah, your ammo wallet. The novel, dude. Like,
yeah.
I got one of those at the 22 Creedmoor dinner last year, and I was like, oh, this is sweet.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, and this is how most of our products come out. Is and I'll never forget. I was at a rifle match in North Carolina, and I was reloading, and I spent like hours and hours trying to perfect everything about these reloads, and I had them perfect in those plastic reloading boxes.
Uh-huh.
And as I'm walking from stage to stage, I can hear this clink, 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 and I'm like, the OCD in me is like, I just spent all this time making sure every aspect of this was as good as I could get it. And here I am, like, they're rattling around all loose in this box. I'm like, no way. I have to do something different.
Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah, that's those have been a huge hit. And you know what's neat about that one is that was kind of one of the first ones that spurred our journey into automation as far as sewing goes, because you know the big ammo novel has 120 round has 120 round capacity, and we had one sewing lady at the time when we released that. She sat there and she would take a 5 millimeter Allen key and sew down the one side of the elastic loop, and then move it over, sew down it again, move it over, sew down again. And I was like, you know, we kind of joke like by the end of the day we had to put her on suicide watch, because like she sat there and was just sewing these 2-inch straight lines all day long, and we felt so bad for her. And so it's like there's got to be a better way. So that's how that was the product that got us into CNC sewing. And ever since then, it's been just we try to put as much as we can on it, because I mean, I like people, but man, robots are way better at sewing.
Right. I'm laughing right now because you just got done saying we made this 120 round uh, ammo wallet as a question came in. Would he ever make a 100 round ammo wallet? Perfect.
So
He goes, if he has a
we
120 round wallet, I'm buying one right now.
right. Oh yeah, we do. We do. We have 120. So we've got 10, 20, 40, and 120. We have the designs for an 80 that we used to offer for a bit, but we stopped it because we just couldn't keep up. And we're probably going to try to reintroduce that. But, yeah, the guy who wants 100, dude, like, pick one of them. I don't know. You got, I'm not. Yeah, the next guy, if we say, okay, we'll make 100, the next guy's going to want 105 because that works perfect for him. And,
Yeah. Right.
So, and I will say that's one hard thing with product development is, again, there's not a product that's going to make everybody 100% happy. Like, there's gives and takes, and you kind of got to try to figure out, okay, what is it that the majority of the people will want?
Mm-hmm.
And what do we absolutely have to have? Like here's the feature, here's the feature list that is a must have. We can't live without. What's the like to haves, and what's the nice to haves? And then just trying to figure out, the gives and takes with each one, because, I want to make the gear that works for as many people as possible, but nothing's ever perfect for everyone.
Yeah. L3CPO. Oh, LC3PO. Okay, I see. Need a suppressor cover for a Flow 556. What should I buy?
Well, again, it goes back to what
are you putting it on a short barrel? Yep.
If you're putting on a short barrel, you need the core set. If you're putting on a bolt action long range rifle, it really, you can get by with the metal python. If you're kind of in between, the HTP is a great choice. But again, it really depends on what your choices are. The core set will work in all those situations. So, if you're on the fence and you're worried about going too far, the core set will always be a great option.
Yeah. Let's see here. Somebody said, I will own some Cole-TAC products in the near future. Heck yeah, I love that. Good to see. You got to support the people who support us. Send It says, I'm on the website right now. Only 40 is available on the website. I'm going to keep looking. So
only 40. Hold on. What did he say?
He says only the 40 rounders are available on the website right now. I don't know about that.
So nothing is ever out of stock. Because we're the manufacturer, nothing is ever out of stock on our website. Because we get low and we just make more of them. And at most you're a couple days, if we're absolutely out and we get a run on something, we're a couple days out. If you're looking at the standard ammo novels that are 120 rounders, and they say out of stock, please DM me, because something's wrong. and we have all of them available all the time.
He's probably looking at Ammo Wallet. The Ammo Novel doesn't show out of stock.
Yeah. Sorry.
That would
Ammo Novel is the 120. Yep, you're correct.
But that is a great clarification for everyone who ever hears this podcast, because that's huge.
Yes. The Ammo Wallets are smaller round count. Ammo Novel is the big boy because it's a novel and it takes, it's bigger.
Right. I freaking love it. Okay, so I'm going to keep you on this podcast, and we'll go over a couple more things, not on record for all the people who catch this later on when they hear it on the recordings. But Dustin, thank you so much for coming on the show. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to keep you on. We've got a few more questions we're going to cover over on the Instagram Live. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. Remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good as mentorship is conservation. It's up to us all to be the change we want to see in the world, and it starts with the way we speak and how we act and how we interact with this world. Remember, we're ambassadors for hunting, shooting, the Second Amendment in America wherever we go. Represent it well. Be blessed. Thanks for tuning in to this podcast. And for those of you, go support Cole-TAC. Go to Cole-TAC.com. And go pick up an ammo novel, a suppressor cover, a shooting bag, any of that stuff, and go support the people who support us. Be blessed. Thank you for tuning in this episode. If you like it, share, subscribe, give a thumbs up, leave a review, as that always helps. Be blessed. Freedom on. And as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure.